everyone. Thanks for coming and welcome to my 5th video. This is going to be the last thing we do for the Middle Ages before our test next week. For those of you wondering, it's going to be next class, and for Blue Day it's going to be on the 27th, which is next Tuesday, and for Red Day your test is going to be on the 28th. So we're going to end the Middle Ages today. We're going to create a foldable, and on one side we're going to look at the development of 3 kingdoms in Europe, and on the back we're going to look at how the 4 facts on how the Middle Ages ended. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to go through this. If I'm going too fast, you can pause, you can rewind. Your choice. Just got to make sure you get this stuff down so you're ready for the test. Now, let me share with you how we're going to set this foldable up first. So here we got our paper. It's a little dark. Let's make that a little bit lighter. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold this hot dog style. And for those of you who don't know, it's the long way. I'm going to go almost to the holes. We want to leave the holes open like that so we can put it in our binder. So again, we're going to fold it over like this. Put this like this, and I got to make this a little bit brighter. There. Now, first we're going to put the title on there. We're going to call it Western Europe Develops, but I'm going to shorten it up to West Europe, just because it's just a title. So we'll write West Europe Develops. And this is going to be page 12B in your binder. So West Europe Developed is our title. Now we're going to create 3 flaps, and they don't have to be any sort of even. And if you want to get a scissors, that's fine. I'm not going to use scissors. So I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to just patiently, just nice, gently, I'm going to create 1 flap, just like this. Let me make sure you can see it. And then somewhere over here, well, let's see, find the middle. We'll create another flap. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a foldable. Like this. We're going to not leave this solid. So we have 1 flap, 2, and we have a 3rd one right here. Just like that. Now what we're going to do, and I'm going to use markers, you don't have to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write just the name of these kingdoms. I used to have people like draw all these pictures and do all this vocab stuff. I just don't really have any time, and I don't want things to get too confusing. So I'm going to use markers. You don't have to. And we're going to make this big. And the first kingdom we're going to talk about is England. So we've got England on our first flap. The second one, France. And the last one, Spain. So these 3 kingdoms, and the reason why we're talking about these 3 kingdoms is because they're going to become very powerful when we start talking about the age of exploration. Why do we speak English here in America? It's not the native language to this country. We speak it because England, where English developed, controlled that area mostly. Why in Central and South America do they speak mainly Spanish? It's because Spain had a massive empire there. Why is French a language that, one of the official languages of Canada? Why in New Orleans do they speak a version of French? It's because the French, these 3 countries are going to become the most important as we move forward into this continued effort to globalize our world. And every one of our ancestors were somehow affected by these 3 kingdoms. Now this is what we're going to do. First, before we get into the middle, the insides, we're just going to flip to the back real quick. Now on the back, we're going to be doing end of the Middle Ages. So let me zoom in real quick. Right on the back somewhere, we're going to put the title, End of the Middle Ages. I'm going to write Mid-Ages just to make our lives easier. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting 4 facts back here. Again, we're on the back of our foldable. But we'll get to that at the end of this lesson. So we got end of the Middle Ages. When you're done writing this down, let's flip back to the front. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be writing 4 facts, 4, under each one of these flaps. I've kept it real simple. I just want you to know the 4 most important things that leads to the development of these 3 incredibly important countries. Now, how you put this information, we're going to be putting that, we're going to start with England. So let's open that up. How you put this in there, I really don't care. You can write across like this. You can start up here and write across like that. You can start right here and write down here. I don't care how you put them as long as you get the 4 facts on this. Just don't write too crazy big. All right. So now that that's ready, I will share with you my presentation. Let's get out of that. And we'll go into my presentation. Here we go. Let me put this up there, make sure that it works. Sometimes it doesn't. England, France, and Spain developed. Now we already wrote this down. You have to write it again. Let's we opened up the English flap. And like I said, we're going to put 4 facts under each flap. Now, at any time during this lesson, if you need to pause stuff, make sure you do so. I'm going to be moving kind of fast and I don't want you to fall behind. That's why I'm recording it. Now, the first fact is that England's an island nation. It's going to have a great navy, but it starts off just on a little island, just north of mainland Europe. And one of the things they had to deal with early in their history was Viking invasions. Now, a lot of people, when they think of Vikings, they think of these big barbarians with these helmets that have horns on them. That's a common historical misconception. Vikings did not have horns on their helmets. That was something that was created to make them look more devil-like. But they were a problem nonetheless. They really just wanted farming land. And they were going to take it from people. So they had a bunch of kingdoms. They had to deal with Viking invasions. They're eventually going to be unified, but it's not by an English guy. They get unified by a French guy named William the Conqueror. In 1066, William, who was a descendant of a king in England, what is now England, sailed across the English Channel from a place called Normandy. And he claims that he is the king of all of England. And he is going to take that crown by beating all of his rivals at a battle in a place called Hastings in 1066. He's going to unite all of England. Whether the English lords and nobles want it or not, too bad. He unites them, and he is the first true modern king of England. And what I want you to do, anytime I have a highlighted fact like this one, I want you to highlight it as well, or if you don't have a highlighter, put a box around it. That's an important fact that I need you to know that might show up on, I don't know, a test that we might be taking someday soon. Now, he has kids, obviously, they take over, so on and so forth. His descendants included Richard the Lionheart, who we learned about last class when we were talking about the Crusades, this great Crusader king. Now, Richard himself doesn't have any kids. He was too busy, fighting in the Crusades. And he eventually takes an arrow right to the throat and dies. This leaves his brother, who was not as good of a leader as he was, and his name was John. He was a terrible king. And he abused the people and the nobles, and they forced him to sign something called the Magna Carta, which would guarantee rights for all. Like you can't be put on trial without a jury of your peers, or you can't, no taxation without representation. These are all important things that should sound familiar to all Americans, because the Magna Carta is what our founding fathers is going to base a lot of our Constitution, the United States Constitution, the law of our land. A lot of it was based on the Magna Carta. That's why I'm going to have you highlight it, because that's very important to us as Americans. So these are my 4 facts about England. Once you have them written down, you're going to shut the English flap and you're going to open up the one that says France. And that's going to move us on to medieval France. I'm not going to have you guys write this part down. I just wanted to, I just really kind of just like this picture of medieval chivalry. I got France. They're still a Christian nation. And before, we've talked a little bit about France, or the Franks. And the biggest, the most important person we talked about was Charlemagne, who he was the Holy Roman Emperor, and he created this large empire that included a lot of land. Now, when he died, he split up his land. 3 sons, his 3 most important. He had a lot of sons, but his 3 most important sons, and they're not going to keep the empire together. So Charlemagne's empire is going to break up, and someone else will be named Holy Roman Emperor. Now, these French kings, his descendants eventually die out and new kings take over, and they're going to make Paris their capital. Now, a lot of people, when they think of Paris, they think of the Eiffel Tower, but that's not built just yet. That's just a little over 100 years old, which really isn't that old. But they're still going to make Paris their capital. Eventually, Philip, that guy from the Crusades, took advantage of the British. Remember, Philip was friends with Richard the Lionheart, but then they got into a big argument, and Philip would go home. So while Richard and all these other English kings are fighting the Crusades, he's going to take advantage of them and take land that the British themselves owned in France, like Normandy, where William the Conqueror was from. Avignon, where, Richard's mother was from. And he takes it from them. It makes it really easy once Richard is dead and John's a really bad king, but he takes all this land and he creates what is now going to be modern France. This is going to create a lot of animosity between France and England, and they're going to become traditional enemies. They're going to fight a very long war as well, which is going to bring us to the end of the Middle Ages. In the storyboard where you guys had to come up with your inquiry questions, a lot of people asked, how long did these battles last? And a medieval battle could last maybe just sometimes days, sometimes they would last weeks and months. The French and the British are going to fight a bunch of battles that are going to last about 100 years. Thus the name 100 Years' War. This is important because not only are, we're going to see shifting power between the French and the British. For a while, the British will be more powerful, then it's the French, and back and forth. They find different ways to defeat each other using the longbow. The French thought they had the British, but then, the British had this new technology, a large bow that helped them defeat the French at a place called Azincourt. But they're enemies, and until about World War I, about a little over 100 years ago. So they are going to be traditional enemies. They're just really not going to like each other. Not always going to fight, but they just don't like each other. So these are our 4 facts about France. When you're done, you're going to close that, and I'd like you to open up our final flap, the one on Spain. Again, anytime during this video you need to pause or rewind, do so. Now we got Spain. Spain's our last kingdom. If you remember correctly, they're being controlled by those Muslim empires. Now these Muslims, these Spanish Muslims, are called Moors. If you read Shakespeare's Othello, Othello is a Moor. Now, this starts with Charles Martel's, this attempt to recapture Spain starts with Charles Martel's defeat of the Muslim at the Sicily. Now they start pushing the Muslims back into Spain. Charlemagne does the same thing. And then the Spanish are going to, from this region called Castile, are going to get involved as well. It's this effort called the Reconquista. That's why I have that picture on there. It was an effort to drive the Moors out and to turn Spain back into a Christian kingdom. And that's what's going on in this picture here. A Muslim warrior is fighting a Spanish knight. Now, eventually the Christians are successful, led by these two, Ferdinand and Isabella. They're strong Christian rulers. They're going to get married and unite all of Spain. The Muslims only control a very small area by the end of the Reconquista. Now, what's going to happen is Ferdinand and Isabella want to make sure that Spain stays a strong Christian nation. So they start to persecute anyone who isn't a Christian, even if you're suspected of not being Christian. Like they're like, oh, they're secretly Jewish. They're going to pull you into a dungeon and interrogate you, torture you, and maybe even kill you. It's called the Inquisition. So they're going to persecute Jewish people and Muslims in the Inquisition. If you were found not to be a Christian, it would turn out bad for you. So this is, it's kind of unchristian-like, but it's something that happened because they wanted to make sure that they kept the Muslims and Jewish people out of Spain. Now, when you're done writing down your 4 facts about Spain, you're going to shut that flap and you're going to flip to the back and we're going to end the Middle Ages. So again, we already put this title on the back of our says End of the Middle Ages, but if you haven't, make sure you do have that on the back of your foldable. We're going to write down 4 things, 4 reasons why the Middle Ages ended and why it helped lead us to our global world that we live in now. First, the bubonic plague. Why I show you that insanely awesome video about fleas on rats. This is why. The bubonic plague is going to kill 1/3 of the European population, which that's not great. But because you've got this decrease in population, serfs don't have to live these terrible lives anymore. They don't have to live on the manor and live bad lives only to, look forward to dying and going to heaven. They can move away. They aren't being forced to stay somewhere. They can, demand more money, more pay. They don't have to spend the rest of their lives as poor peasant farmers. So this allows serfs to leave the manor and to get jobs in the cities. So this is great for lower classes. Now also, but it's going to be bad for the Pope. The Pope is, going to lose power and prestige thanks to the scandal and corruption in the Catholic Church. The Pope used to have all power. Kings couldn't say anything to them. He made Henry, the Holy Roman Emperor, wait out in the snow to apologize. Now the Pope can't do this. Nowadays, in 2020, do you even know what the Pope's name is? We've already talked about this. The Pope doesn't have the power he once had over the world. And this is the beginning of the end of that power. Now, the Crusades were a failure. They didn't recapture Jerusalem and the Holy Land for all of Christendom. However, because they want those silks and spices from Asia, and they don't want to have to pay taxes to cross through Muslim lands, this is going to push Europeans to find better ways to Asia over the sea. And it's going to lead us to our age of exploration and the quote-unquote discovery of America. And lastly, there's a renewed interest in learning and arts. People, because they're not worried about, their lands being stolen, their lives being taken, they can start learning how to read and learning about art, architecture, navigation, all of these things. It's going to lead to a time in Europe called the Renaissance that we're going to be talking about in about a week from now. And that, my friends, is the end of the Middle Ages. So, and again, if you guys have to pause and go back, do so. Let me go back to that real quick. So again, that right here, if you have to pause it right here, I know I kind of rushed that out of there. This is the end of the Middle Ages. Now, what I'm going to have you guys do for the rest of class is I'm going to have you work on your review, and I'm going to show you where to look on Canvas to find that. Let me call up my student view just to kind of help you out. You should already know where this is, but oh, there it is. So here we are on Canvas, world history. You go past announcements, blah, blah, blah. Oh. Let me go to, anyways. And you're going to go to today's date. It says, how did kingdoms like France, England, and Spain develop? You already should know where this is because that's how you found this video. So here we are. We watched the video. This is the test review. Now, again, our test is going to be next week. For you guys on Red Day, it's going to be on Tuesday, even fifth period. And for you Blue Days, my World History Honors, your test will be on the 28th, which is Wednesday. Now this review page is going to be worth 25% of your test grade. So you need to complete it, take a picture of it, and the last thing you're going to do on the test is upload a picture of it. So you need to make sure before you click start on the test, you have a copy of this review and a picture is taken of it. So you're going to use the rest of class to go through this and identify each idea or concept or person or vocab word. I'm going to go through this briefly just so you kind of know what I want you to do. So I got the topics. These are some people that you're going to need to know. Salah ad-Din, that unbeatable Muslim leader, and the other Crusader kings, Philip II, Frederick Barbarossa, and Richard the Lionheart. Also 2 popes, Gregory the Great and Pope Urban. Also, I need you to know who the Moors are, those Spanish Muslims. We just talked about them. And you'll be able to find those on pages 2B, 10B, and 12B, the foldable we just did. So what I'm going to have you do, just put people, Salah ad-Din, unbeatable ruler or leader in the Second Crusade. You just have to identify them briefly to show me that you studied, that you found them in your notes and you studied them. Now some vocab, chivalry, fief. Fief is that little, bit of land that the lords would give their vassals in exchange for service. So anyways, chivalry, fief, knight, serf, lord, vassal, tournament, troubadour, manner, excommunication, and interdict. Ugh. That's all on 4, 5, 7, and 10B. I want you to describe the bubonic plague, its origins, its symptoms, why it spread so easy. It's on 11. If you have to go back and watch those videos, do so. I want you to describe of knighthood. I need title, age, and what they do. Their titles: page, squire, knight, the ages 7, 14, 21, and then just tell me something that they do. You can find that on either page 7. You guys, my PCS, you'll just use page 7. Next, the Crusades. You can decide what happened. Just briefly describe the first 3 Crusades. The short-term result was a failure. They didn't recapture Jerusalem. However, the long-term result is that they were exposed to silks and spices in Asia. Make sure you know that. Now, then you're going to describe 2 inventions from Asia. You can find that on 7B. It's those stirrups and those saddles. I want you to describe the 3 systems or backgrounds that influenced the Middle Ages. You can find that right at the top of page 2B. Well, it's not really at the top. It's where, we crossed off the map. It's in the information right below that. And lastly, I want you to describe how England, France, and Spain developed. So you'll just simplify what we learned today, page 12. So again, this review is worth 25% of your grade. If you don't do the review, it is required. So if you don't do it, the highest you'll get on this test is a 75%. So be smart, my friends. Make sure you get this done. You have the rest of class to do it. If you have any questions, just go to our live chat and throw it in there. I'll answer you as soon as I see it. Or, if you want, you can just send me a message on Focus or email me. So again, make sure you get this review done. And we are all set with this video. Have a great day.